everyone in podcast listening land. I'm Karen Devaney.
And I'm Amand Varner.
And we're sisters.
Welcome to Sugar-Coated Murder, where we'll discuss
and probably inappropriately laugh about and comment on.
Yep, one of our favorite subjects.
Murder. Oh, and we love to bake. And why not combine our two favorite subjects?
Baking
and killers. Well, hello.
Hello, Karen Devaney.
Hey, Ann Varner. We've got some really exciting stuff going on today.
We really do.
Yes.
First off, today you're not going to be hearing the whirring sounds of the mixer and the timers on the oven because we're on location today.
We are, and you're not going to hear trout either.
No trout, but you will hear the making of lattes, the hum and the excitement of the day to get started with people coming in to get coffee and fresh treats. And we are right now in the LowCo Cafe.
Yes, and it's on Clements Ferry Road.
It is. It is
a great place. We come here often.
Yes,
they have great coffee. They have great baked goods. They have great breakfast sandwiches. They're open till 2,
lunch.
And they do breakfast all day. They do lunch. They do pretty much everything. They have incredible cinnamon rolls that they sell out
and they are one of, I think, the only place in the Low Country that has a coffee roaster connected to their shop.
Yes.
So all of the coffee that they sell is LowCo Cafe. Because I'm crochet today. They exclusively sell the LowCo coffee.
That they roast on site, which is amazing.
Delicious.
So when you walk in here, it smells so good.
It does. And everybody's so friendly. They've got a drive-through,
yes,
which is wonderful. You could call ahead and order something, drive-through, pick it up. They're just really
awesome staff.
Awesome people.
Everybody here is so nice and accommodating, and they have graciously let us record.
Yes.
So, and we brought friends.
We brought friends today. Oh my gosh.
So we have two friends. We have Bruce and Andrea. And we're going to let them introduce themselves so that they can tell you only the things they want you to know about them. So we're going to start with Andrea. We're going to let the girl go first. The broad. Broad's first.
Well, thank you, ladies. It's so good to be here. This is Andrea St. Amand, and I'm an evidential psychic medium, and I love ghost stories. I love telling ghost stories. And I just gave it away what we're going to do today. The cat came right out of the bag.
Perfect. It's okay. Cat out of bag. We were looking for somebody to let the cat out of the bag. You did a great job. Thank you.
Cat's been in long enough.
Yeah.
So today we're going to do ghost stories, but specifically they're going to be of people who were murdered and whose ghosts came back after the murder. And what do these ghosts have to say? How do they act? What can we learn from them?
I think that's very exciting.
And then we have another friend, because we have two.
We have two friends.
Oh my
We've
God.
made two friends this year.
If nothing else comes out of this podcast, we can honestly say that we've made two friends.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Bruce may not call us friend yet, but maybe by the end of it.
I think we've made him as a friend. We just don't know if by the end of the year he's still our friend.
Right.
he's our temporary friend. I think we've roped Andrea in very well, but we're still tugging a little bit at Bruce.
I don't know. I think Bruce had this brilliant idea to start with the ghost story.
Well, that's very true.
What
Bruce,
did they say of birds?
You?
What did they say of birds of a feather? You know.
Exactly.
So, yeah, exactly. So here we are.
So who are you, Bruce?
I'm Bruce Orr. Nice to meet you folks out there in Radio Land. But I am a retired former homicide investigator. So I think I kind of fit in a little bit with this group.
You do.
I'm also a local author. And I always had an interest in our folklore and legends and ghost tales. And I always liked to enjoy those as a child. Grew up with a particular book called Charleston Ghosts by Margaret Rhett Martin. It had a lot of great tales in it. And I basically cut my teeth on that book. My dad got upset because of the ghost tales in it horrifying me and made my mom take the book away so he could get sleep at night.
Oh, gosh. Which made you want it even more.
Exactly. And love the ghost tales. So after I retired, I kind of combined the investigative ability and started looking into those ghost tales and started writing books. So I kind of like it with a little twist, As Andrea just mentioned, a ghost tale with a twist.
I love a twist. Yes,
and taking care of business.
So, Bruce, if I wanted to buy one of your books, how would I do that?
You'd use money.
Oh, that's...
Yeah,
okay.
and cards, because coins are scarce.
That's what they say.
So that's why they say. That's what they say.
But right now, I can pay for my book in coin.
I can too. I feel like my purse is so heavy, but it's just because all the dang pennies in there.
I might be the reason for the coin short too.
But you can find my books. My two publishers are History Press, which is now Arcadia, and Schiffer Publishing, and you can find them through both of those locations, or Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Wonderful. You can go in and put my name in, Google it in the author page, and it'll pop up all the books that I've done and the descriptions.
Wonderful. Super. All right. So, like we said, we're going to talk about ghost stories.
We are, and I think that we're just going to dedicate the month of October to ghost stories.
I think it's a good idea.
I think that's what we're going to do.
We're going to try our best to find as many ghosts around as possible and try to connect with them and see if they'll come on the podcast.
No.
Oh, that's not what we're doing?
No.
Oh, I thought we were going to
You've got a medium here.
I was about to say, she can help.
No, we don't want ghosts following us around.
No, we're going to go find them.
No, we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about them.
I just feel like my idea is a little bit more adventurous.
Okay, but the first time something spooky happens,
I'll be so scared.
I know.
And I won't be able to sleep without a light on.
I know. Your husband's going to love it.
He's going to send me to your apartment.
And I'm going to say, door's been locked. Sorry, no entry after 9.
Yeah, I was the kind of kid. My parents would not let me watch scary movies because I watched one and I literally slept. My mom got to the point that she just locked her door, so I would stop coming in and I would sleep right by the door, like stretched
you're picturing in your mind like a 3-year-old.
No, I'm
she's like high school. So it's not that sad.
It was horrible. And then I would sleep with all the lights on in my room, which drove my dad crazy because that's electricity.
Right.
So, and then after that, they were like, no more scary stories for you. I saw the first Friday the 13th, and literally I watched it through a blanket. I went to a friend's house, and a bunch of people were there, and I was so afraid that my neighbor across the street had gone with us, and we had all gone together, and he drove, and I made him park his car and walk me to my door because I was so afraid that Jason was in the bushes at my house, and he was like, I can't believe we're doing that.
No, to me, that's smart.
I agree.
Right. I mean, how many stories do you tell where there is a guy waiting in the bushes?
Exactly. So, there's so many. And so I'm just saying, we didn't have a lake, but we had bushes, and I just felt like he was in there. So.
Right. So are you going to be okay with our stories today?
We don't know yet.
Well, I'm going to be okay while I'm sitting here. But tonight when I go to bed, I might have to have a night light.
We'll see. Let's get started on it.
So let's get started. I think we're going to start with Andrea today. So she's gonna tell us one of her murder ghost stories, and we're just gonna chime in and ask questions. But the floor is yours, Andrea. Take it away.
All right. Well, this is one of my favorite ghost stories.
Do we need to
clear? Stop? Okay.
No, you're good because it's all the noise in the background that people love so much.
Yeah. It's proof that they're grinding the coffee right here on site.
Yeah. I think they're making some sort of a frozen drink, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's a margarita. So, do we need to clear the room of any spirits or ask them politely, please don't come in and connect to us?
Why would we do that?
Why?
We want them to talk on the podcast.
The spirits?
Yeah, I would
that would be pretty amazing.
Jump into Bruce's body and just let him start talking in their voices.
All right, let's do it.
Well, thank you for the human sacrifice. Thank you.
It's just I felt like you would be brave enough that you could take that.
Well, it has happened before. Jack Daniels has actually spoken for me many times, but that's another story. So I just
I've had that happen too.
Yeah, that's why we're bonding as we go.
Kindred spirits.
You guys do realize you're talking to a medium.
Yeah,
that's what I do for a living.
That is what you do for a living.
Ghosts come in, they talk to me,
and that's how we know
me.
you to begin with.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
All right,
we're
take it away.
We'll see if we get this first one. I don't think we will. We're just going to tell a story.
Okay.
All right, so we are in Charleston, South Carolina, and the story takes place here. And as some people may or may not know, a lot of people associate Charleston with the Civil War, but Charleston has played a tremendous part in the Revolutionary War. Mm-hmm. And in fact, a lot of the plotting and planning before the Revolutionary War started here in Charleston. So the war is going on, and we have a patriot here who's out fighting, and his name is Isaac Cain. And he was very well respected in the community. The Patriots, he was captured at one point by the British, and he was allowed to return home, he and the other men that he was fighting with. So this is how war went back in those days. The men that the British caught, the officers, the gentlemen, they weren't put in a prison or anything like that. They weren't prisoners of war. They were actually allowed to return home to their families.
Oh.
It's like a catch and release program.
Exactly. Tag and release. It was tag and release.
Tag and release.
On the condition that these patriots do not go back and fight for the patriot cause. They actually had to go home.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So Isaac Cain returns home. He actually lived outside of, just outside of Charleston. When he returns home, he discovers that his wife is very ill. And one of I think it's his youngest son was very, very ill. And Bruce, do you remember how many children he had? 3 sons? I feel like he had 3 sons. I might be wrong there. Anyway, wife was very ill, son was very ill. Medicine was very hard to come by back in those days, and you had to go into town to get it. And so Isaac Cain, at that point, the British had taken Charleston. So the British, all the soldiers were in Charleston, the government, the town hall, so to speak, which is now the Exchange Building for anybody who knows Charleston. They were set up in the government offices running Charleston. The British were.
Oh, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Isaac Cain, in order to get medicine for his wife and his children, he had to come into British-controlled territory.
Oh, dear.
Outskirts of Charleston were still probably technically British-controlled, but they were safe. So he had to literally walk through the guard, go through the lines.
Oh, gosh.
And he had to get the medicine, and he had to hope that the British were going to honor their end of the agreement,
right?
Not capture him, and they were going to let him
and they were
going
to believe him when he said, "I'm just coming for medicine and not trying to get behind enemy lines."
Exactly. I'm just coming for medicine. Let me take care of my family and go back out. So Isaac Cain's facing a dilemma at that point. Does he stay at home, watch his wife and child just wither away and die, or does he take a risk and go into British-controlled territory?
Sure.
Well, as a patriot and a soldier and an honorable man, of course he's going to take the risk. Come into Charleston, do what he can to save his family. He gets the medicine. He goes back out. He hits the edge of Charleston. The British officials let the medicine go through, and they seize Isaac Cain, and they throw him in the dungeon.
Oh, man.
Completely go back on their agreement.
Wow.
Now, Cornwallis was the one in charge of the Charleston forces at that time, and he decided he had wanted to make an example out of Isaac Cain. That if you're a traitor to the crown, even though we said you're going to be allowed to go back home, if you try to come back into Charleston, we're going to arrest you, seize you. And
so
in fact, we're not just going to throw you in the dungeon, we're going to hang you.
Oh, no.
He just declared, get in the dungeon and let's set a date for your hanging. Boom. That's it.
There was no,
no.
We're going to talk about this, or there's no, trial, or
no. Colonial rule. No.
Okay.
So Isaac Cain is in the dungeon, and the dungeon at that time was truly a nasty, disgusting dungeon.
Imagine.
I don't know if anybody who lives near the Low Country, when the water rises, that water was coming in the dungeon. It was damp.
Imagine.
There's nowhere to go to the bathroom. You're just going.
Small, tight, and confined, and at one point it was believed to have held 140 prisoners at one time in that confined space.
Wow.
Very small.
And that water is nasty.
It's nasty.
Yes.
And I'm sure
Rats,
he probably was growing mold.
Oh
my God.
I mean, he had to have been. He had to have been covered in insects and everything.
It's terrible.
It's
honorable man.
It was ooky.
So there he is down in the dungeon. Charleston, the Charlestonians go crazy. They get so angry. Now, at that point, a lot of people in Charleston just kind of wanted to go about their business. They did not want to be in a state of war. They wanted peace. They wanted to keep going about their lives.
Sure.
But this really, really angered them. So this took a lot of people who had been loyalists, it turned them over to the patriot side, the revolutionary side.
Because they saw that they were misbehaving.
Yes. So people, lines and lines of people would just come into the government building and plead for Isaac Cain's release, for him to be for Lord Cornwallis or Earl Cornwallis. I'm not sure exactly what his title was, but for him to show mercy.
Sure.
Now, the interesting thing is the dungeon was right beneath the government offices.
Oh.
So Isaac Cain's down the dungeon, and he's hearing footsteps overhead from the man who put him down there in the dungeon.
That's got to be torture.
Absolutely.
Torture.
So Cornwallis refused any mercy. He set the date for hanging. And in fact, he had the coffin built that Isaac Cain was going to be placed in, and he put it in the dungeon and propped it up against the wall next to where Isaac Cain was.
That's just mean-spirited.
Horrible. Then...
That is bad behavior.
In the meanwhile...
That is no way for a gentleman to act.
I don't think Cornwallis was ever accused of being a gentleman.
Okay. Well, good for him. I mean, not good.
My heart is hurting as I'm feeling this, because in the meanwhile... Isaac Cain's wife died, and his youngest son died.
And he couldn't even be there with him.
Couldn't be there with him. So he then has 2 sons left. His oldest son, who was, I believe, around 14 at the time, was allowed the day before Isaac Cain's set hanging. The oldest son was allowed to go into the dungeon and say goodbye to Dad.
Oh, how nice!
He had to say goodbye to his father.
Oh.
With his father standing next to that coffin that's propped
that's
up.
Where he's going.
Yeah, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Do we know how long he was in the dungeon before he got hanged?
We probably do, but I don't.
Okay.
Let's ask Isaac. Time doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know, but I was just trying to figure out, is it like a couple of days? Is it a month? Like,
it would have been long enough for the people to actually get an audience
and get there.
And get there and have an audience.
So
with
at least a couple of
weeks. And again, it was an exhibition. They were making a show of it.
They didn't want to hang him fast.
Yep. No,
they wanted to make it a big deal.
Right. Wow. And probably in there, a day felt like a month at least.
So Isaac Cain, morning comes for him to be hanged. The public is gathered everywhere. So he would have been marched out of the dungeon and then to the hanging grounds, which if you go directly there, it's a couple of blocks, right? But again, Cornwallis wanted to make this an exhibition. He paraded Isaac Cain all through the streets of Charleston.
Oh my gosh.
So Isaac Cain's sister agreed to take care of the 2 remaining sons because these children were going to be orphaned.
Right.
Yeah.
So Cornwallis had Isaac Cain walk by the house where his sons were inside.
With his sister.
Oh, God.
That is just so...
It's horrible.
Torturous.
So Isaac Cain is paraded by this house. And the sister comes out onto the upstairs piazza, the balcony, and she's trying to hold her composure. She's trying to keep herself together. And when she sees him walk by, she loses it.
Of course.
And she's just like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this to you. She just loses it. And she said, come back, do anything you can to come back. Like, don't go, don't leave.
Sure.
He looks at her and he says, I will try.
Oh, that gives me chills.
They keep walking. They go all the way to the hanging spot.
Okay.
He climbs up onto the platform, and Isaac Cain was actually allowed to say goodbye to his 3 best friends. And each one of those men shook his hand and said, we will look after your boys. We'll make sure they are raised properly. And the final man, he said... not his final best friend, but the last man that he talked to shook his hand and he said, you are dying with honor. You go with honor. You are a patriot. And Isaac Cain said, I will try. I mean,
I got chills again.
I know. So he is standing there on the platform. The hangman puts the bag over his head. The hangman then has an issue getting the rope over his head. Isaac Cain reaches up, helps the man pull the rope actually down over his own neck.
Oh my God.
And then he dropped his arms and he was hanged. That was it.
Right in front of everybody.
But no crying, no begging. He just went. That night, after the boys were in bed, the entire house where his sister and the family was living heard the front door open. They heard footsteps come up the steps and go into each one of the boys' rooms. And both the boys knew that was their dad.
Oh my gosh, that breaks my heart.
He had promised to come back
Yes.
and try. And he did. He sat down on the bed. And the oldest, we actually know this ghost story because the oldest son ended up writing memoirs later on in his life about those last moments with his dad. And he said, our dad visited us every single night in bed until we were grown men.
Wow.
An honorable ghost. And they always felt like they could talk with their dad. He was there for them. He did not abandon them. He came back.
Wow.
That is so amazing. That really gives me a lot of chills, too.
Me too. I love that. Such an honorable ghost. And one of the things he was honorable in life. He was honorable in the afterlife as well. But he just fulfilled his promise. Like everything he said he was going to do, he did.
Yeah.
And I love this story because it just shows the intelligence of the spirit world.
Yeah.
That love never dies.
I agree. And he really was so devoted to his family.
So devoted.
It also backfired. It backfired with their ideas of what they were going to do.
The ghost didn't backfire.
No, but the plan did. They were going to make him a martyr to
No, they were going to make an example.
the British. The British were going to make him an example to keep the city quelled down, and instead it reversed, and it made him a martyr.
Right.
And then more people took up arms, and they ran the British out of the city within the next year, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
1792.
Look at that. He was still fighting the war, too, because he was really in the spirit of all of those patriots that took up arms, and they did it on his behalf.
To basically go along with what he said he would try, he succeeded.
He really did. He did more than try. He did it. He
that
did
is
it.
amazing.
One of my favorite ghost stories.
That is such
Love
a great story.
Cheers to Isaac. Way to go.
Way to go, Isaac.
Cheers, Isaac.
We honor Isaac. Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. That is great. And I love the history. I like the history of Charleston, where we are. So, Bruce, what you got?
Kind of hard to follow that act, but
way.
You see, you have to kind of be a little sly with this. So I reached over to West Virginia because I know the person opposite the table also came from West Virginia.
Yes.
So I had to venture out into her territory to find a murder case.
That's exciting.
So we go back to Greenbrier, West Virginia, back in 1897. And there is a young woman by the name of Zona Easter Shue. S-H-U-E, Shue.
Okay.
Now, Zona falls in love with this ne'er-do-well, this troublesome individual, this traveler.
The bad boys. Who doesn't love a bad boy?
That's right. Well, to make you guys even happier and to honor someone that is not here, this individual's name was Trout Shue.
Oh,
so I have found you a murderer named Trout.
I love it.
So,
you're a bad boy.
Well, I'm catching brownie points all the way here.
Trout really is here today.
Yes,
So Trout is here. We do
And
have
we've
a
always
Trout.
said Trout's a bad boy.
Yes, that's it. So
Trout is a very bad boy, especially when I'm around.
this
Something just
particular
happens.
Trout Shue, though, he's not a good individual. Now, Zona Heaster Shue, her mother is Mary Heaster.
Okay.
Mary Heaster does not like Trout at all. She just has this horrible feeling about him. She refers to him. Her affectionate name for him is the demon.
Oh.
So that's it. Yeah, really.
That's a question for your relationship.
So so she's not real thrilled with him.
Wow.
So January, she's talking to her daughter, and telling her this man is no good. I just have this horrible feeling about him. You need to get away from this individual. Of course, we know how that usually works.
Yes, it's
just
want them more.
That's exactly right. So Zona did. Then in January of 1897, an errand boy comes by the house and he finds her body at the foot of the stairs. She is deceased.
Zona's body?
Zona's body is now laying at the foot of the stairs.
Right.
Zona is dead.
Zona is a Gona.
Did Zona run off and marry this guy? Or
he showed up in town, and she kind of went behind the family's back and married. And
they did get married.
So Mom is she is married. She is married the demon. So Mom is not happy, and now she is dead. Now she's dead.
Yeah,
so they contact the local coroner. And Coroner George Knapp shows up an hour later
Oh, he's not in a hurry.
No.
Well, it took a little bit of traveling. It's not like...
Well, that's true. It was kind of rural.
It was rural, so he shows up an hour later, and by this time, the body is moved.
Uh-oh.
The body is redressed.
Oh, dear.
The body is upstairs in bed, and her husband is cradling the body and crying and sobbing hysterically.
He's all up on it.
So, now, the coroner, he's having problems examining the body, and this is not tradition. You see, when somebody died, they did the investigation, then the body was released to the ladies of that area, and they took care of doing all that. That was tradition in West Virginia. All the women would dress her. They would tend to all that arrangements. This is completely out of ordinary.
Right.
Now, the husband is so distraught that the coroner can't even do an examination.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, the information, of course, gets back to Mom, Mary Heaster.
Oh.
Mary Heaster's first...
What did they claim happened? What did the husbands claim?
They said that the first ruling... The husband wasn't there.
Okay.
So the coroner, without examining her property, said everlasting faint.
What?
Which is a term for just passing away. And then he basically said it was a condition of pregnancy. But nobody knew she was pregnant. So I guess, back in those days...
she got the vapors.
She got the vapors, the everlasting faint, and she rolled down the stairs.
Everlasting.
Everlasting. Well, I guess if you faint at the top of the stairs and you fall down and you're dead,
it's pretty
everlasting. It's pretty everlasting.
Gosh,
but
it's so
maybe
funny.
not so necessarily in this case, though. So Mary Heaster, the mom, is informed of this, and her first words is the demon has killed her.
Oh, wow.
And she is very, very upset about it. And she wants answers. Now, when the funeral is held, Zona is taken out into the box, put out in the box. They do the viewing and all that, and there's a pillow and a blanket inside, a sheet inside the coffin with her. And Mary goes over, and she takes the sheet out before they take her to the grave.
Oh.
She takes the sheet home. She notices there's a strange odor on it, and she washes it.
Oh.
Now, according to the legend, the water in the bucket turned red, and the sheet turned pink, and the water cleared.
Oh.
And the mom took this as some sort of sign
Right.
that her daughter was trying to communicate with her.
Oh, my.
So, for the next 4 weeks, every night she prays, and then she tries to communicate with her deceased daughter.
Sure.
After 4 weeks, the first night, she gets what is described as a ball of light. Zona shows up and begins communicating with her.
Wow.
And tells her that, she was indeed murdered.
Oh, my.
The second night, she appears as she did in life.
Okay.
She talks to Mom, and she says, Mom, she was indeed murdered, that he had attacked her, and he had broken her neck.
Oh, my.
Oh.
And to demonstrate that he had broken her neck, the ghost turns her head completely around.
No, I'm out.
Karen's not going to sleep tonight.
That's it.
Karen's not going to sleep tonight.
And tells her mama, yes, he did kill me.
See what he did?
2 consecutive nights. So for a total of 4 nights, she comes back and talks to her mom and convinces her mom that she was murdered.
Okay.
Mom is a woman obsessed.
I would imagine.
She goes and she confronts the local prosecutor, which is John Alfred Preston. And she starts talking to Mr. Preston. Mr. Preston is basically running her off, thinking this woman is crazy.
Yeah, she's
doesn't
got
want
the
to hear.
everlasting vapors.
Yeah, she's got something going on. She's not right. So she keeps pressuring him. So he says, okay, just to basically appease Mom, he's going to go out and he's going to talk to some of the people.
Okay. That's
He starts
nice.
with the coroner. And then realizes the coroner did not have a proper examination.
Oh,
gosh.
And then he starts talking to the witnesses. And then he's thinking something's not right because he's not too thrilled at the way Trout Shoe is acting.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Trout shoe. I thought you meant Trout's shoe. And I'm like, what's his shoe doing? But no.
That's the one you're trout shoeing on and somebody else's shoe.
So
Trout
sorry.
Shoe
This is an actual
is
person.
the demon in the story. So, now, Preston is interested in this case.
Sure.
And he thinks he's got enough to exhume the body.
Oh.
Wow.
Well, Mr. Trout is not real happy about the body being exhumed, but they do it anyway. And they do the investigation. They do a proper examination. They found out that there are bruising marks on her neck, that she had been choked. The autopsy revealed that her neck was broken between the first and second vertebrae.
Which is how she could twist that
Twist
sucker
her neck around. That's the only location that can be broken to where she can spin her head completely around to demonstrate.
We're all going to have dreams tonight.
She's going to have her head on backwards. I just knew it.
Now.
Zona. No.
Trout. The demon Trout.
The demon.
The husband is arrested. He is taken to trial. During the trial, the prosecutor goes up to Mary Heaster and says, please, for God's sake, don't bring up any of this ghost stuff.
Don't bring in your hocus
Don't
pocus
bring in the fact that you prayed for 4 weeks and 4 nights. Your daughter came back and she told you this, and she's, please don't bring up any of this. Please don't. We will lose this case. Well, she kept her word to the prosecutor.
Okay.
The defense attorney wanted to discredit her and brought it up.
Oh, yeah.
And he tried to discredit. Right. It backfired.
Uh-oh.
It is the only United States case where a ghost has testified by proxy and convicted her own murder.
What? Yay!
Yeah.
I love that.
See, Mama. There you go. Zona testified through her mom what had happened. The jury accepted it. The man was convicted and sent to life in prison. Here's where it gets even better.
Oh, it gets better?
They find out that he has been married. Zona is his third wife.
Oh, that scoundrel.
First wife brought him up on charges of cruelty. Second wife died within a year of marriage under suspicious circumstances.
Oh, that
Zona is his third wife, and she's now deceased.
And she ain't having it.
He's sentenced to life in prison and spends 3 years, one for each wife, before he dies inside prison.
Wow.
Of some sort of unknown disease in West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville.
I hope Zona came and got him.
A year for each wife.
That's nice.
Only United States case where a ghost was allowed to testify.
That is so amazing. That's a great story.
And it's got a trout in it.
And it has a trout.
There you go.
And it has a woman scored that is not having it.
That's right.
She's like, I'm going to get you.
And a mother's belief.
Yeah. Moms are strong.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
What strikes me with this is, in your experience as a detective, as an investigator, have you ever had a body exhumed? Have you ever even heard that a body, like, once it's in the ground, they'll dig it back up again?
I haven't
don't know why
in any.
Strikes me.
I haven't in any particular cases, but I know of cases that have.
Really?
Yeah, where bodies have been exhumed and re-examined.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it does happen.
Yep.
Have you all come across stories like that?
A couple of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, but the bodies of, like, if, like, there's been a couple of cases where, like, a man was convicted of murdering his second or third wife, and then they go and exhume the other wife.
And that would have probably, in this day and age, if this case had happened, then his second wife, having died under suspicious circumstances, they would have dug her up and tried to do some.
And there was a case of a woman who was poisoning her husbands, and they proved the last husband that she killed had died from poisoning, and they dug her previous husbands up, and they had all died from poisoning too. Oh. And so they used that to convict her of and send her
we
to
did
life.
A case. She poisoned her daughter.
Yes.
What?
And then she poisoned the neighbor's wife.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And then her husband.
Yes.
And then the police were like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And she had been giving them rat poison. And she was having a secret affair with the neighbor.
Well,
I remember the story.
Yes. So that was they were able to prove that she had been doing this all along, and this was a long time ago.
It was the 1800s.
Yeah, and I think it was in England.
In England,
yeah, I remember that story.
Mm-hmm. So they do exhume them. I just would not want to be a part of that. I don't think I want to open that casket.
You wouldn't sleep for the rest of your life.
No, no, because younger, like probably college on, maybe high school, I had such a fear of death and dead bodies, that if I went to an open casket funeral, I would have nightmares for months about that person coming back,
raising up.
Well, actually, I would dream that they were laying on top of me, and I couldn't get them off.
Oh God!
So they were dead, but on top of me, and it was a running nightmare for the longest time, just the longest time. And I think the one time that when I finally got over it, was when my grandmother died, and I went and saw her, and it gave me a whole different perspective.
Was that which grandmother?
Me, Mama.
Oh yeah. Well, she and I got the giggles so bad.
I know.
We got in so much trouble. We had to walk out of the funeral home because we couldn't stop giggling.
We couldn't. I mean, that's us, though.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
So
we got in.
And I think that was the first time that I had stopped being afraid of dead people. Like, I was afraid that somehow they were going to be on me. They would smother me in my nightmare, that they were dead. I couldn't get them off of me.
Here's what's really crazy. Difficult. When our dad passed away.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, and you're giggling.
I know.
You're giggling.
Know. Because our dad passed away.
And I still have pictures of him in his casket in my phone.
But we were at the funeral home, and it was just the two of us because we went to have coffee with him.
The morning of
there was something just not quite right about his face.
It was his hair too.
It was in his hair, and we were like, our hands were all over his face,
trying to fix
his hair. And we finally went and found the funeral director and said, "You have his hair all teased up. That's not how bad he wore his hair. No. It's not how he wore it." So then we found the nurse that took care of him,
and she came over
with the comb that she combed his hair with every day, and she fixed his hair for us before. But we got the giggles so bad. We went to Hardee's because he loved breakfast from Hardee's. We brought in our coffee, and he was laid out in the funeral home in his casket, and we pulled up our chairs and sat and had coffee with Dad and talked to him and got the giggles so bad.
Oh, gosh, we did.
Took all these pictures of him laying in there because he really looked very nice. He got his hair fixed. He looked so good. I was like, Dad, you've not looked this good in a long time. He was in a suit. I mean, he just looked good.
Nice. Yeah.
So my kids think it's so creepy that I still have those pictures on my phone, and I go back and look at them.
Well, it's a good memory, though.
Yeah, it was a good memory.
It was a good memory.
And if anybody knew our dad, he would have loved it because he had such a big sense of humor.
He had such a. That's where we get our sense of humor from. Yeah. He had such a sense of humor like that. He would do that kind of stuff. So
a very sarcastic sense of humor.
I think that would be similar to my kids because that's the first time we've ever seen them stop moving. And they would argue back and forth. Somebody get a stick and see which one would poke and see if he'll move.
Here's the funny thing. The day that my dad died, we were all with him. And my brother, who was very, like, you wouldn't know he was a part of us because he is so serious.
So very serious.
As funny and as humorous as we are, he is just the opposite. That's how serious he is. And so my dad passes, and of course we're all upset, and we're with him and everything. And but my dad's eyes were open when he passed, and it was kind of disturbing because they were like, he was like wide-eyed, like, here it comes. And so my brother went over just to close his eyes, and my dad let out one last breath. And he jumped so hard, and Ann and I got to laugh, and we couldn't stop laughing. My brother didn't think it was funny.
I think that's hysterical.
Well, he did. And I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, and he goes, you son of a bitch. I said, he got you, and now you will never get him
last time. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's pretty sick that we can find the humor in Dad.
But you have to. You have to.
Dad.
That was who Dad was.
Because I know there are a lot of people who've had experiences with a loved one, and they're sitting with them, and they pass, and it's very beautiful, and they're surrounded. Our dad passed. It was difficult. It was labored, horrible breathing. I was in a panic.
Yeah. Well, even his doctor came in and said,
it was terrible.
Harry, we talked about this, and you've got to go.
It was really, really bad. Yeah. And it felt like he was suffering. I know he wasn't, that he was already gone.
He was already
gone. But the body was letting go.
But to watch it was very, very difficult.
Very hard.
So to have that very last moment of him scaring the crap out of our brother.
It's hysterical.
It was absolutely perfect.
It was almost like comic relief at the end of the tragedy.
Honestly, he could not have left a better impression.
Yeah.
Because my brother deserved it.
Right. And listen, I'm sure that there were people in that we don't have the best reputation in that neck of the woods anyway.
Or not exactly
Harry's daughters were laughing when he died.
Oh, yeah. They've always thought we were irreverent. And we are, but we own it.
We're not. We're not irreverent.
We're not irreverent. It's
we
just,
are the most loving
humor.
people, but we have our father's sense of humor.
We do.
You have to have a sense of humor, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, and we just don't have a great reputation in that town. So, of course, it was just one more thing that those newborn girls did. It's just one more thing.
Going back to what you said about the ghost tales and growing up, it was my situation. I was terrified of those ghost stories, but I loved them and I was addicted to them and I would get scared of them. And of course, I had mentioned that my mom had to take that book away from me, and my dad was upset about it a little bit because I would have those nightmares at night. My grandma came to me, and my grandma started telling me about ghosts and about things and houses they grew up in and things of that nature.
When your grandma was alive, or
when she
after?
Was alive.
Okay, I wasn't sure if the ghost was visiting you at night.
That is so nice of her to come back to you.
No, she was still alive at the time. So what ended up happening is then my uncle, which was my mom's younger brother, started coming forward and started telling these ghost tales. And started talking about not being afraid of ghosts and things of that nature, and death is a natural thing. And he in later life became a minister. Then, of course, when grandma and uncle did it, then mom came forward and started talking about ghosts. And then they started talking about the connections and living in the haunted houses. And then it's a lot like Andrea here starts talking about the comfort of it and the peace of it. And I started losing the fear, and I went from being scared of dead bodies and ghosts to a career in being a death investigator and a homicide investigator. So I completely flipped the script because how these stories came about and brought my family closer together on my mom's side. And there became a history of ghosts, and my little sister loves ghost stuff. She's a school teacher. All of the family love the local ghost legends and the stories. And we could sit for hours and hours and throw stories back at that. But it was the difference in the fact that my grandmother came forward and started talking about houses that they lived in. And you need to talk to your mama about the time this happened. And then you go say, Mama, it's like, I don't want to talk about it, but your Uncle Thomas was there. Well, then I go talk to Uncle Thomas, and I get the story. Then I go back to Mom, and Mom would say her side of it.
So
it became a family thing. So again, sitting around talking about ghost tales.
Do you have another ghost tale, Andrea?
I do. And actually, I've already shared my family stuff on an earlier podcast.
Yes,
crazy family stuff. But so maybe some of our listeners will start telling their own ghost stories to their kids and scaring their kids. And this could be something we pass on.
And I would love it if they would write to us on our email, which we'll give you at the end of this, and let us know some of those ghost stories, because we'll talk about them.
Absolutely.
And
we'll talk about
the ones that work best to keep your kids up all night.
Yeah, well, none of them.
And scare them to death.
Our
No,
kids
I'm just teasing.
Don't live with us anymore. That's the great part, because now we can scare the heck out of them, and then they can go home to their own places.
Right.
I've got grandkids. You give them sugar and tell them ghost stories, and they stay up all night with those stories in. So that works out.
And then they're out the door.
That's right.
Yeah.
Go home.
Go back to mom and dad.
Parents. That's awesome. So what you got for us, Andrea?
All right, a good one. I hope
Of course.
We have a dead bride.
Ooh.
She's literally called Harriet Mackey the Dead Bride. That's how the story goes. So Harriet Mackey was the only child of a very, very, very wealthy father. Harriet's mom died when Harriet was little. Harriet's dad, she was very close to her father, and I believe her father died when Harriet was like 11. So it was young. So everyone in the family comes around and they're like, who's getting the money? Because back in the 1800s, this might be before, this might be late 1700s, because the story takes place in 1803. But so back then, no one's going to leave money to 11-year-old child.
Right.
Especially
a girl.
A
leave it to your boy,
Abroad.
but not leaving it to a girl. So all the cousins are coming in, everyone, and pretty much the cousins are like, well, we're next in line. The money's coming to us. And there'll be a little bit set aside for Harriet, we're sure, to keep her, comfortable, but we'll get the masses. So the will is opened and read, and lo and behold, every last cent was left to Harriet.
Oh, good for Harriet.
However, there was a condition.
Oh, no.
Harriet would not come into her money. I guess there would be a trustee that held the money, but she would have control over the money when she either turned 21 or when she got married.
Okay.
So either one of those events would put the money into her control. So Harriet gets older. When she's 17, she falls in love. Madly in love.
Nice.
Now she ends up marrying a man who is equally, or not marrying, but falling in love with this man whose family is equally as wealthy as
so
she is.
It's not about the money.
It's not about the money.
Love it.
And everyone loves this young couple. They're like, this is a match made in heaven. They are perfect together.
They were the it couple.
They were it. They were it. They were it, because this also takes place in Charleston.
Yeah.
And they were set to be married at St. Michael's, which is very prestigious.
Yeah.
The church. Harriet had the wedding dress. You know, everything was planned for this huge Charleston wedding.
Nice.
Wedding of the century. So 3 days before the wedding, Harriet drops dead.
What?
Oh,
Boom.
no, Harriet.
I know. No illness, no nothing. Just boom.
She was 17?
17.
Wow.
So her fiance is furious. He is like, there is no way somebody poisoned my fiance. Somebody did this to her
to get the
money. So he's absolutely furious. He gets the authorities involved. The authorities believe him.
Okay.
And they look to the cousins, because the 2 male cousins were in the house at the time. And they're the ones who are going to benefit.
Those cousins, you can't trust
You
them.
can't. You just can't.
No. Because 3 days later, that money was going to be out of their
Yeah,
paws once and
right.
for all. So they go to trial. And
Holy moly.
they
on
accuse just on
like
this
no
motive.
Okay,
They do find actually that Harriet had been poisoned.
Okay.
And they do find that she was poisoned with the tea that she had been drinking.
Oh, not the spot of tea.
The spot of tea.
Oh,
yes.
Tainted tea.
Probably
Gets
as
it
she
every
was like
time.
planning,
Of
the final
course.
details of her wedding, and the flowers are arriving and
She's
guests are all
probably
coming in.
doing the seating arrangements for
Probably.
the reception, which is the hardest thing to do.
Probably those last minute little details.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where we go sit the cousins, farther away from me.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn cousins.
So they go to trial. The cousins are accused of murder with the poison,
Sure.
and the jury finds them not guilty.
Oh, no.
Sadly, and the jury actually
Harriet.
apparently was really hard for them to find not guilty, but they just said they couldn't make the link that the cousins were the ones who actually poisoned her
Right.
or instructed somebody else to put the
Sure.
poison in there. There was no linking there. So Harriet's fiance vows that he will bring justice upon them if he has to chase them until the ends of time.
Oh, nice.
That's a juicy story right
I like
there.
that.
Yes.
He's a noble man.
Well, on Harriet's wedding day, it's her funeral, sadly.
Oh, that's awful.
But Harriet shows up.
What?
Her ghost shows up at St. Michael's at the appointed time where she was supposed to get married
Oh,
in her full wedding dress.
Oh my God, I have chills.
I got chills again.
It's okay. You're good. You're fine.
I'm knocking things over.
It's okay. Well, I
And
think
she-
it was Harriet.
It was. Harriet's walking down the aisle of St. Michael's.
Oh my gosh.
So that's in 1803. It is now 2021. People see Harriet to this day on a regular basis in her wedding dress walking down the aisle of St. Michael's.
way.
They will open the door. They'll see her walk by the window, but they'll open the door. They'll actually think like I've walked
Somebody's
in on a
in there,
wedding
yeah.
or it's a rehearsal or there's a photo shoot because she appears that strongly as a flesh and blood human in her wedding dress. So several things about this ghost story are interesting to me. One, we know about it because she appeared right on the day that she was supposed to get married and people started talking about this ghost story. Two, Harriet's portrait was made. Now, back then, portraits were miniatures.
Right,
like tiny, like little, almost like a little locket.
Right.
Okay.
And she was painted in her wedding dress.
Sure.
She was painted after she passed away. That portrait ended up in our local museum. It's now in the Yale collection, so people can actually Google Harriet Mackey, the Dead Bride.
That's amazing.
And see what she looks like. You're going to Google it right now.
God.
You can actually see what she looks like.
We'll definitely put a picture up when we post this.
Just please do. The other thing that's fascinating to me about this story is that Harriet was never in her wedding dress in St. Michael's in life.
Wait.
So we're not seeing, a lot of times people see ghosts
right
as doing something they used to do in life.
Especially like all the time.
Residual.
Which is residual energy. Right. This is a ghost.
I Googled it.
Don't show Karen. She'll be up for the next century.
She'll be
it's a lovely portrait.
If she's in her wedding gown tonight, I'll be okay.
But what's interesting is that she's in that wedding gown waiting for her husband, waiting to get married. And surely by now, her husband has long passed away.
Sure he has.
So why is she still waiting for him in St. Michael's?
I think because in spirit, she's still waiting to get married.
And I think he's still chasing down her cousins.
Oh, you think so?
Because he vowed he would chase them down through the ends of time to get vengeance.
And maybe they're in hell and he's in hell chasing after them. He has not had a chance to hook up with her.
He might be making sure they stay in hell. But this is a ghost story that I believe is not going to last forever. Because I do believe when he gets revenge on her murderers, he is going to show up in spirit form. There's going to be a horse and carriage coming down Meeting Street. He's going to float open the doors of St. Michael's, and he's going to go in there and claim his bride, and then we will start seeing a bride and a groom ghost, and we'll see them leaving St. Michael's. That's what I think. Yeah.
So I would love to know the lineage of those cousins, because I would want to keep an eye on that whole family.
Well, they might have come back.
Right, but sometimes revenge is not served on the person. It's a curse that's served on their generations that follow.
But it might be those cousins reincarnated.
It could be.
And Harriet's fiance might have reincarnated to hunt them down.
Being a detective that sits and watches and listens, I just wanted to bring up something and thank you. There was a murder committed here at this table.
Oh, no.
During your story, you said it's now 2021. Thank you for killing off 2020.
Oh, gosh!
I am glad. I am so glad you murdered this year because I'm tired of it. Let's get rid of the mask. Andrea, stop this. Thank you for killing off that murder. I think any jury will acquit you for the murder of 2020.
Here's what's crazy.
It was self-defense, y'all.
It was self-defense. Thank you. I'm not worthy, Andrea. I'm not worthy.
Not only that, but we're not making that a martyr.
No. Don't come back as a ghost. Please don't.
That is crazy. I didn't even pick that up.
That is awesome. When I said it
felt weird.
It felt so right.
Well, maybe this means in 2021, this is all going to resolve itself.
Maybe so.
Maybe. That would be awesome.
Have you seen it?
Have I seen her?
The ghost.
Harriet? I feel like I have, but it's in my mind's eye.
Oh, okay.
Like, she's very clear specter to me. And I've told that story a lot standing outside of St. Michael's.
Yes.
And, people will be staring at the windows. And I just feel like I can see her alive. Like, her whole story is very much alive to me. Same as Isaac Cain. I think that's why those two stories are, I like them. You know, because not all ghost stories feel like 3D.
Right.
Yes.
But these two really feel so historically compelling.
Yeah. Well, and I got to tell you, you're a great storyteller because when you tell the story, I can envision it as if it were a movie playing out in my mind. So it definitely has a lot to do with that. I think is you give it life the way that you tell the story, and I think that, and same thing with Bruce. Just the way that y'all are just naturally born storytellers, and I think that helps us literally envision it and just feel it.
Yeah,
I think really feel it.
Harriet and Isaac were coming in here and speaking through me. Actually.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe. And maybe Trout, your dog, is really Trout, the demon.
No, because my Trout.
Keep him away from shoes. He's attracted to shoes.
He's not. He's never bothered my shoes.
I'm just saying.
He does murder a stuffed toy pretty rapidly.
He does.
But your dogs do
around
too.
the neck.
No.
Well, actually, he goes after their head.
The head, whatever piece he can tear into, and then he rips it to shreds.
Yes.
And then he brings you the smallest piece left and wants to play tug of war.
Right. That's my dog.
Very small.
Leroy.
Piece.
Leroy brings you a piece of cotton and wants to play tug of war, and he's like 65 pounds. Like, dude, I'm not putting my hand there. Like, I'm not putting my hand in your mouth to play tug of war with a piece of cotton.
I will say, though, Trout's favorite spot to lay is around somebody's neck.
Yes, I was at her house yesterday, and I'm on the couch, and I was working and making donuts at the same time. And so Trout all of a sudden gets up, and like he's literally laying, his head is here on my shoulder. It's like a cat. He's like a cat. So I think he's attracted to necks. And I feel like it's the 1 and 2 vertebrae back there. Yeah, he's just trying to figure out how to snap it.
Yeah.
You were talking about the storytelling aspect and how we tell stories, and Andrea and I started working on a few projects together, and I don't know if you wanted to share how we met in that story. That's a little bit creepy with how we...
Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
So I think it's kind of
appropriate on this podcast.
I think it's kind of a interesting tale. So.
But you lived.
I did live.
This is why you're not a ghost right now.
Yes, but there's a twist to how that all went about. So I don't know. I hate to put you on the spot, but
you have to.
Go for
it. So when I first met Bruce, I knew his name because of the books he had written, and particularly one of them I was fascinated by. And so I was helping out Bulldog Tours and giving tours of our haunted jail. And I had started an early tour, and I was only giving like one tour that night or something. I started a tour, and I had 20 people behind me. And I see this man from across a crowded parking lot.
Got the vapors.
And our eyes locked.
No.
Not at all.
No. My heart started pounding out of my chest.
Oh.
Just pounding out of my chest. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I got all sweaty.
I have that.
And I was like...
He is a very nice looking man.
I have that effect.
Well, I found myself staring at his legs.
Uh-oh.
He was in shorts.
Oh.
And I was like,
scoundrel.
So what is wrong with me? What is going on? This is crazy. And I've got to entertain these 20 people behind me, and my ears are like ringing loud. I mean, I was just having this crazy first reaction to this person.
You're allergic.
That might be beneficial to her later.
Everything in me was probably like, run. I'm just teasing. I'm totally teasing. So I end up giving the tour. I come back out, and Bruce had started his tour because they kind of rotate like that. And I thought, well, I want to meet him because of the book, and I really respect like the work he's done with these legends and going back and finding the history behind them and telling the truth of these people. And so I thought, well, I'll just wait till he's done with his tour, and I'll introduce myself, and that'll be it. Well, I'd kind of forgotten the original reaction I had to him, so I'm sitting waiting around for him to get done. He gets done. He walks out of the jail. I had the same reaction all over again.
Oh, no.
Heart is pounding. I feel like I'm going to pass out, and I'm staring at his legs. By the time I get up to him...
Except he's probably thinking, stalker alert.
As a detective, he probably was, because the only thing I could say to him... I wasn't like, oh, hello. But I said, I put my hand out, which was all nasty and sweaty. And I said, we have a lot to talk about.
Oh.
That was it. That's the only thing I could say. I was like, ugh. And he fortunately just rolled with it and just said, okay, here's my card. We'll have lunch next week. 3 days later or 2 days later? 2 days later. 2 days later.
Now,
he went diving.
I went diving on a dive project in the Cooper River. Now, this is... Of course, we would meet on July 13th, the 13th.
Yeah. Right.
So, again, I guess a lucky thing was meeting her out of that. But it's July 13th, we meet. This all transpires. We're preparing to have lunch. 3 days later, I'm diving in the Cooper River, and I have a heart attack.
In the water.
In the water.
In the water.
So, there you go with the connection of the dive tattoo. She experienced all the symptoms.
Wait, they don't know about the dive tattoo.
Oh,
what I was staring at on his leg, I was staring at his right calf. And I was too far away to know what I was looking at. But as it turns out, he has a diving tattoo on his leg. And that's what I was staring at.
Yeah.
So I was 30 feet under and started having experiences and then came up to the top. And when you're diving in the Cooper River, it's whether you've got a partner or not, it's solo diving. So my partner's still down there. You can't see each other.
Right.
So long story short, I'm still here and survived it. But I find it, being law enforcement, having worked with the paranormal, there are two things. Law enforcement, of course, has issues at times, not all, but at times, with attorneys.
Oh, yeah.
And I am a former attorney. We did leave that part out.
Paranormal, my experiences is with mystics, psychics, mediums, and all that. I've always had issues with them. In fact, I upset one so badly one time, she sent me a hex text. Oh. I got text by hex. Oh. I'm a guy is a glasses half full kind of guy, so at least it wasn't a sex hex text. Okay. So, I mean, there's always one up. So, again, of all a medium and an attorney, and then I have a heart attack.
It's all
after that. Yeah. I know. So, my first meeting, she caused me to have a heart attack 3 days later. So, exactly. This is a partnership made in hell. I mean, made in heaven. And it works out rather well. But again, the point I'm making is, right, the point that I'm making is, though, that it was interesting, and I can't dispute the fact that every symptom that she had was what I experienced in that river 3 days later.
Wow.
And I had a minor heart attack, and I survived it. And
congratulations, we're happy
about that. Either that, or y'all be having me talking about me on another podcast.
Right.
The Gators murdered me in the Cooper River.
Oh, gosh. Let's don't talk about
that.
But
anyway.
That keeps me up at night.
That's crazy.
But that is an interesting way to meet, and I can't dispute that.
So glad that you guys met.
Yeah,
so
because it's beneficial to us that you all met, because now we know both of you.
And glad that you took time out of your day to come and
thank
sit
you
and
so
talk
much.
with us.
This has been wonderful. I've loved these stories, and I really appreciate that you all shared them with us in such vivid storytelling detail.
And thank you so much to LowCo Cafe.
Yes, they've been
for opening their doors to us and letting us take over their back room and talk, which, by the way, if you wanted to have a meeting, you could call and book the meeting room. It's a nice big space.
It's a nice space over here.
Yeah, it's a very minimal charge. Totally worth it.
And the food is excellent.
The food is excellent.
Wonderful. We all had breakfast sandwiches before we started.
We did.
And we've all got different types of coffee, and it's been wonderful.
It's been great. So Google it, LowCo Cafe on Clements
Ferry. It's LOWCO. If you do LOCO like crazy, you're not going to find it.
You can find my books if you look at that way. Yeah, LowCo author.
Yes, but it's Low Country Roasters, or what they're called. Right. So it's LowCo Cafe.
Yeah. So thank you to Andrea. If people wanted to be in touch with you for medium type services, how would they find you?
You can find me on my website, AndreaSaintamand.com, and that's all spelled out, AndreaSaintamand, AndreaSaintamand.com, and I give all types of readings, mediumship, psychic.
Wonderful.
Check it out.
And we've had several, and we love them.
Yes.
Love them.
Yes.
So, and you never know who's going to turn up.
No.
And Bruce, how would our listeners find
you? Would you want to be found?
Right now, my company is Lost in Legend.
Okay.
And I do have a Facebook page, and that's how most people contact me. Or through the History Press or Schiffer Publishing about the book projects. Of course, you can look up the book projects through Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and they're all for pages.
What is your web address? Is it lostinlegend.com?
Yes, lostinlegend.com. But right now, there's some transitions. There's some new projects that are starting to open up. So right now, as far as the website that I have, it's shut down again, making some changes, hopefully, that will come out within the next month with some new and exciting projects. So,
so what
about, what happens.
So if I wanted to go do a tour downtown, are you with Bulldog?
I'm with Bulldog Tours.
And can we request you specifically?
You could also hire him privately.
Yeah.
You could do a private tour.
Yeah. So that would be really, really,
so
really
if I
fun.
wanted to hire you for a private tour, how would I go about doing that? Don't tell me I need money because I already know that part.
Well, again, you can contact me through the Lost and Legend Facebook page, and it does have a phone number and information there.
Perfect.
So it's still up and running, but again, hopefully some good changes happening in the future.
Nice.
And some new projects starting, so we'll see.
Okay, and we hope to
Halloween
have
brings.
y'all back on again sometime this month because I think y'all have a lot to offer us, especially this month when we're doing some spooky things and some kind of going off a little bit out of our comfort zone, which is murder.
We'll have to find another. We'll have to find a local spooky place to record.
I'm sure we can find several of those.
We're in Charleston.
Yeah.
Walk down the road and there will be a spooky spot.
Yeah. So we also have social media.
We do.
We have email. We love email. We love it when our fans email us to tell us stories.
We're lonely. We just need contact.
We just want you to talk to
We just want friends.
We want some friends.
You got two.
I know,
we have two.
but y'all don't email us. So
it's true.
We need email because we're lonely.
We
just need affirmation that we're doing it okay.
Let's just send thumbs up emojis to each other.
You. Oh, yeah. Thumbs up. A heart emoji. Thumbs up.
So you can find us. Our email address is murder.sugarcoated@gmail.com. We also have a great Instagram.
Yay! Social media. Instagram. We are at Sugarcoated Murder on Instagram.
Right.
And we're on Twitter now, but I don't really know how to twit. So I don't really know what I'm doing. And I think that the name they gave us was Sugar Murder. Which is interesting. So I'm still trying to get into that. I don't really know the twit thing.
Don't twit us.
Just if you could just let me learn twit before we go twit. So
you're a twitwit.
I am a twitwit. So but we do have a website that's sugarcoatedpod.com.
We also have a Facebook page, Sugarcoated Murder Podcast, or Sugarcoated Murder Podcast fan group, which you can go on and request to become a member of. We yet to deny anybody.
No, we had 3 new members this week.
We did.
Yay.
Well, one of them's iffy. One of them.
No, she's back in.
She's back. Okay.
She's back
one of them,
she left?
She came and then she left and now she's back, which that's good news.
And I only counted her as one person. So if you count her the way that happened, it's really 4 new ones.
Yeah. So, we
contact us.
Just got on Amazon
Music.
So.
Yes, we just got added to Amazon Music. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play. We're on all of the major podcast platforms.
Awesome. So that means now that you're on Amazon Music, we can just say, Alexa.
You can already do that. You can already do that.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're on something called TuneIn, which is also fed through Alexa. But you can ask Alexa play Sugar-Coated Murder Podcast. If you forget the podcast, and she's going to play you some kind of weird song. Yeah. So,
Watermelon Sugar High.
And the nice thing about Alexa is she'll always play the latest episode.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
Nice.
She's always up on the latest episode. So,
go Alexa.
So we've got merchandise now.
Yes, on TeePublic.
TeePublic, we're getting ready to come out.
We're going to launch Redbubble this week.
Yep.
What's TeePublic and Redbubble?
They're just places where you can launch your merchandise and people can buy.
Like an Etsy type, or just
it's kind of like an Etsy.
That. You put designs out there,
and they're artists. They're like artists that go in and
it's not just podcasters. It's freelance artists that go on there. There's amazing stuff on there, but we want them to buy our stuff.
Yes,
we do.
Definitely.
And we recognize that the shipping on some of this stuff is a little high.
And that's why we're going to try Redbubble too.
We're going to continue to work and see, but I've ordered several products from TeePublic, and I'm extremely happy with them. The quality of the T-shirts is great. The mugs are beautiful.
We have masks now.
Face masks
that say Sugar-Coated Murder.
Yep, they're great.
They have lots of stuff. Lots of interesting. They have pillows for your couch. They have shower curtains. I mean, it's just amazing what you can put us on. T-shirts and hoodies and sweatshirts and coasters and stickers and magnets and face masks and
pretty much anything.
Oh my!
And the nice part about it is that we get a little bit of money from it.
We do.
So
that we can then afford to buy our baking supplies.
Baking supplies, right?
Because we do go through a little bit of baking supplies.
We do. We really do.
So if there are any people out there that listen to us that own a flour mill that want to sponsor us,
a butter churn,
if you own your own butter company or sugar company, we are happy to. If you want to sponsor us and send us those products, we'll only use those products.
That's right. Right.
We could really use we could use some baking
Yes,
items.
baking items.
Unless
Staples.
you're related to Harriet Mackey's cousins. Apparently, they've got problems with their baking stuff.
Oh, I don't,
their
I
tea
don't-
drinks
yeah.
and things
Don't
like that.
send me any tainted tea.
No
No,
tinted
my God,
teas
no.
or anything like that.
No.
Well, this
All
has been so much
Thank you
fun.
This
so
has been
much.
awesome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you guys.
listening.
Yes.
If you
We love you
kill
guys.
people, we will talk about you.
And stay sweet and don't murder.
Don't murder people.
Because then we'll have to talk about
That's
you.
not nice.
And we don't like it.
It's not nice.
So, and
So anyway,
wash your damn hands.
Wash your freaking hands, please.
And just wear a mask. It's an act of kindness to other people to wear a mask.
just wear it.
It's not about you, it's about them. You don't know who you're in contact with that may be very susceptible to all sorts of things.
Right.
So don't be a mask hole. Just wear your mask.
Wear your mask. Wash your hands. My God, please. Wash your freaking hands.
And we love y'all.
We love you. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.